UFC Atlanta, this is the full card predictions. I'm going to go through each fight one by one, giving you my pick, how I believe each fighter will win that fight, and then we'll also take a look at the odds. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get this video underway. Now, we did have a lot of breaking news today as I'm getting ready to record this video, so I have to go through each segment that I believe was super important to, record as I'm getting ready to record the predictions. So starting it off, we got Joshua Van versus Brandon Royval. Damn, what a series of events. Manel Kape has gotten injured. I believe he fractured his foot, and Joshua Van tweeted probably like 20 minutes after we heard that the fight was canceled that he's got fight news coming. I did not expect Joshua Van to be stepping in on such short notice. He just fought 2-3 days ago, and now he's fighting the #1 contender, Brandon Royval. This is a very interesting fight. It's a 3-rounder, which makes the fight even more interesting because I would probably favor Brandon Royval in a 5-round fight. It gives him more time to become, even more creative. I like his striking. It's very unorthodox. He throws a lot of, spinning attacks, knees up the middle. He's very creative. But I think Joshua Van might beat him in this matchup. I know he's much shorter. It could look similar to like a Taitsuda Tyro Brandon Royval matchup, but I don't think Brandon Royval is going to be able to take Joshua Van down. He's very grounded. Since he is, the smaller fighter, he's got a very good base. His takedown defense is pretty solid. We saw it with the Ray Saruya matchup. He was, he got taken out probably like 3 out of like 11 times. Joshua Van striking in close where, majority of this fight is probably going to happen. It's probably better too. His boxing is a lot crisper. He's probably faster on the feet. Joshua Van wins this fight, he's going to be fighting for the title next. And damn, y'all. I mean, when I just did the, the recap, the full card recap, I was saying Joshua Van versus, Alex Perez, Steve Erceg, winner or loser. But now he's fighting for the #1 contender shot against Brandon Royval, who's been, pretty much a staple of the flyweight division. He's beaten a lot of guys. He lost to Pantoja twice now. The Manel Kape fight was supposed to happen twice. He got injured the first time. Now Kape is injured. As you guys can see, I also I also tweeted or X, whatever you want to say. I think, Manel Kape should fight outside the rankings now. Got a lot of flack for that comment too, but if you think about it, Manel Kape, he has been a little bit of a headache for the UFC. He's had the, the squabble with Mokaev. He has pulled out of fights before. The comments that I thought was a little funny during, one of the post-fight interviews. I don't know, man. I don't think the UFC is going to reward him with like a rematch or maybe even a top 5 matchup. He'll probably get, the Perez Erceg loser. And I believe both of those guys are like ranked 7 and 9. So it'll be interesting to see what the UFC decides to do with Manel Kape. But for Joshua Van taking this fight 3 weeks notice after just beating Bruno Silva more impressively than Manel Kape, I think this says a whole lot about this guy. And I'm a huge fan of him. I cannot wait for this fight. International Fight Week is probably gotten better, honestly. Really like this matchup. I'm going to lean Joshua Van initially, and I know he's a big favorite. I think the odds are like -260 +220 for Joshua Van, but I think they're going to come down a little bit, and when they do, you got to strike when the iron is hot. Next up in the news segment, we got Justin Gaethje threatening to retire if he doesn't get a title shot. I think Justin Gaethje is a little delusional for this. He's coming off of a win over Rafael Fiziev, who he previously beat, didn't finish him. Then before that, he's getting knocked out by Max Holloway. 1-1 in your last 2. Was he 2-1 in his last 3? With 2 of those wins being over, he's got 2 wins over Fiziev, a win over Dustin, and then knocked out by Max Holloway. I think Justin's a little delusional here. I get, why he's saying it. He has been fighting for a long time. I think the UFC definitely respects him, though. They've been giving him some pretty premier fights. The Dan Hooker fight was initially supposed to happen. Dan Hooker got injured and Fiziev stepped in on short notice. But for him not to finish Fiziev on such short notice and after a long layoff, I can't, grant you a title shot off of that. I think a fight that would make sense is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett, #1 contender. I think that makes the most sense, but a title shot off of a physique decision win where you were getting wrestled in the first round. I think he lost the first round too. I can't do that, man. And the UFC's not gonna do that either. Maybe this is like, his strong arm for the UFC to force the title shot, but I don't think the UFC is gonna budge. They really do like Justin Gaethje, but I don't know. Is he really gonna retire? If he does, then hey, respect to you. You put on a lot of fun fights, but this is just a bit too much. I would not give Justin Gaethje a title shot. I think the Paddy Pimblett fight, co-main event, 5-rounder, pay-per-view, I think that makes the most sense. And yeah, I would say an Arman fight, but Paddy Pimblett is much more of a star than Arman Tsarukyan, and the numbers on that would go crazy. But what happens if Paddy Pimblett knocks Justin Gaethje out? You know what I'm saying? So I understand why he doesn't want to fight a Paddy or Arman. But I kind of feel like you have to. You got to win one more. I understand, Dan Hooker, or not Dan Hooker, Dustin Poirier got the title shot after the BSD win, but he knocked him out. It's like apples and oranges, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know, Justin. I don't think you deserve a title shot. Not yet. One more fight. Hopefully it's Paddy. Hopefully it's a co-main event sometime in like September. Hopefully he doesn't retire. And if he beats Paddy, then you get the title shot. Next up, we get another fight canceled. Charles Jourdain is out with an eye injury for UFC Atlanta. Kind of upset. This was a really fun fight. Hopefully, we can get a replacement short notice. But damn, I was really looking forward to seeing this fight. This is probably one of the best fights on the card, but sad to see Charles Jourdain getting injured. And that brings us to the full card predictions. Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. Let's get into it. First fight of the night, Vanessa Demopoulos versus Jamie Lynn HORTH. I'm picking Jamie Lynn HORTH. Vanessa Demopoulos, she's coming in on short notice. She's actually a strawweight. And I feel as though Jamie Lynn is going to have she has a big size advantage, a big reach advantage. I think she should be able to outmuscle her. Demopoulos, I don't really like her striking. I said that in the Alencar fight, which she just lost the decision to. Her jiu-jitsu is pretty decent. She's also on this, this 2-fight losing streak where she was fighting some heavy grapplers. Jamie Lynn HORTH isn't that great of a grappler, but her striking is much better than Vanessa Demopoulos, I have to say. I think she'll be able to use, her reach, her jab. I think she's a little more technical on the feet. Demopoulos, she's like a really jittery striker, but she throws wild combinations, or wild hooks rather, and I don't think she'll be able to reach or catch Jamie Lynn HORTH. I think Jamie Lynn will probably stick to the outside, probably piece her up from outside, throw some leg kicks, maybe try to grapple with her, but I would stay away from it. She could, bully her a little bit, get her down, get some get some of her own ground and pound going. But if I were her, I would just keep this fight on the outside, stick and move, and win the decision. I know the props haven't dropped yet, but I believe, or excuse me, not the props, the odds have dropped, and let's pull them up actually, so I'm not talking out the side of my neck. So yeah, Jamie Lynn HORTH, she's we got another fight cancellation? Or is this an old fight? Yeah, okay. Yeah, tweaking. We do have some props available too, but we will wait for Wednesday's show for that. But Jamie Lynn HORTH is a -475 favorite. Vanessa Demopoulos +375 underdog. I would favor the over. Over 2.5 is obviously -410. Low level women's fight. Don't see a finish coming out of this one. I don't see Demopoulos getting a submission or Jamie Lynn getting a knockout. I don't even think she has, but maybe one knockout on her record? Oh, she's got 3. But have they come in the UFC? No. She's got the submission over, who was it? It wasn't even in the UFC. So yeah, no finishes in the UFC yet. I don't think she'll get one here either. I think it would just be a 30-27 in favor of Jamie Lynn HORTH. Low level women's MMA to start the card off. Next fight, Phil Rowe versus Ange LOOSA. when I look at Angelusa, I think he's like a middle of the pack type of guy. He can he can be above average, but I've never been a big fan of him. With that being said, I am picking Phil Rowe. I like his boxing combinations a lot better. He's got the huge size advantage in his fight, 6'3", 80.5-inch reach for welterweight is pretty incredible. I think the next closest would probably be MVP or Michael Morales. I know they have pretty long reach for this division as well. I'm not going to say Phil Rowe is, the level of striker of those two, but I think he can sting Angelusa with some really long, straight punches, especially the jab. He has a really solid jab that he likes to work. The cross down the middle that comes after is pretty stinging. He was able to, sting Neil Magny up a little bit in that fight. Lost a split decision, but it was a pretty competitive, close fight. That fight was really, in the clinch a lot. Two pretty long, tall guys too, so it was interesting to see that. They, pretty much negated each of their reach advantages. And in the Jake Matthews fight, Jake Matthews is a better striker than Angelusa in my opinion, and he was even touching Jake Matthews up a little bit in that fight. Jake was able to take him down and secure him a lot more. When I look at Angelusa, he does have some solid kickboxing. He does rip, a pretty good body kick, but with this huge size advantage, when I see him throwing that kick, he'll be able to get countered with a jab or a straight cross down the middle. Phil Rowe can touch him up from outside. I think he'll be able to defend majority of the takedown attempts. Angelusa does have some decent wrestling. Has some some pretty good top ground game. I'll say like more so of the striking realm, but his control isn't really that good. If you look at this Reese McKee fight, Reese McKee was able to get back to his feet after getting a little bit of battered up. I believe he got up probably like 2 or 3 times in that fight. Late in the fight as well, he was coming on, almost knocked Angelusa out. Reese McKee's a similar build to Phil Rowe. I believe he's about like 6'1", 6'2", with like a 77-inch reach too. And it was a really good sign to see him, able to sting Angelusa up with that long, wiry frame. I think Phil Rowe can win this fight. It could be a 3-hard round, or a hard 3-round battle. But I think Phil Rowe could touch him up and possibly sting Angelusa. He's got this no contest over Brian battle where I think he was on his way to losing as well. Just lost to Gabriel Bonfim decision. His wins are okay. I mean, AJ Fletcher, he's all right. Reese McKee didn't have a win in the UFC at the time. He just got his first win. I actually picked against him a few weeks ago over Daniel Frunza with the knockout or a TKO because of the, I believe it was a cut. But yeah, I've never been a really big fan of Angelusa. Phil Rowe, I think he could still pull some, wins, put some wins together in the UFC. His last win was 2.5 years ago over Nico Price. Nico Price is a pretty tough vet, and being able to knock him out was pretty impressive. I know Robbie Lawler knocked him out in his retirement fight. I think that was shortly after, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Phil Rowe should be able to pull a win out here. And the odds currently sit at Phil Rowe plus 112, Angelusa minus 132. Phil Rowe opened up at plus 140, so it looks like minus 135. He opened up as the favorite. Now he's the underdog. Looks like people are starting to put some money down on that line. So interesting matchup. I think Phil Rowe should be able to get it done. Next up, we did have Ricky Simon versus Charles Jourdain. My pick was going to be Ricky Simon. I think he would have been able to outwork a Charles Jourdain, who is a slightly better or more creative striker. But with this fight being canceled as to, what the news or the MMA media is saying, hopefully, Ricky Simon gets a replacement. Would like to see him fight. I'm actually going to this event as well, so I want to see some good fights, man. I don't want to, a short night either. So let's get Ricky Simon a replacement. Moving on, we're going to Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. prospect versus vet, right? I think I'm gonna go Ochoa. I actually met Cody Durden at some NFC fights. He's a pretty cool guy. I just don't know if he's gonna be able to handle the pace of Jose Ochoa. Cody Durden is no pushover at all. I know he lost to Joshua Van. He was getting touched up after he had a pretty good first round, you know, using some wrestling, but he got touched up second and third round in that fight. Got the win over Matt Snell, but a win over Matt Snell, it can be how do you rate a win over Matt Snell? Because he's pretty 50-50. Urseg knocked him out. He had the back and forth with Sumadarji and ended up subbing him up. But I don't know. Matt Snell, 8 months ago, Matt Snell just beat what is his name? I forgot. But it was a low level fight. You know what I'm trying to say? Got knocked out by Bruno Silva, who just got knocked out by Joshua Van. He did pretty well in that fight too. Early on, was stinging Bruno Silva up. I think he dropped him twice. Got on his back, threatened some submission attempts. Cody Durden is no pushover. He's pretty good. But I don't know. Jose Ochoa, he's young. He's hungry. His striking is pretty good. He is 0-1 in the UFC with his loss to Loner Kavanaugh, who's also a young, hungry prospect. That was a really good back and forth fight too. I know it was a unanimous decision, but it was actually a really good fight. Ochoa's got pretty good takedown defense, has knockout power. I think he's quicker on the feet. I think with Cody Durden possibly, well, I know he's gonna bring some takedown attempts. I think Ochoa could possibly, you know, threaten with some submissions as well, tying up that neck when Cody shoots, and I think that'll probably deter him from shooting anymore. And I gotta favor, you know, the young, hungry prospect. I think he has the brighter future out of the two. I think Cody Durden probably peaked already, and they're just giving him, you know, pretty tough fights. Joshua Van and then coming to Jose Ochoa is no slouch of a matchup yet either. He's also, you know, a shoot the box Diego Lima type of guy. They're starting to make a little bit of a comeback. They got some pretty good fighters over there. I don't know. Is Durden just gonna, you know, wrestle him up, threaten with a submission? I think the way that this fight ends will be inside the distance, either knockout or submission. But I think Jose Ochoa gets it done. Let's take a look at the odds. Durden's a underdog plus 150. Ochoa minus 175. I think that's about right. Yeah, I'm going to go with the young, hungry prospect to get his first UFC win over Cody Durden, who's no slouch. I do think it would be a hard fight, but I think we'll see it finish in this one. Next up, we got my boy, Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker. Short notice fight. Got the call on his birthday. What a birthday present. And he's fighting Chris Moutino. If you guys don't know, well, I'm pretty sure you know, he fought excuse me, Sean O'Malley a few years ago. Got stopped, TKO. Didn't get knocked out, but he did get stopped by Herb Dean. I'm obviously picking Malcolm Wellmaker. Dude has been ready for this. He's been, you know, calling his shot for UFC Atlanta since he got the knockout over Cameron Simon. Was even predicting it before that. I think he can find the shot again. I know he's gonna find the shot again. Moutino, he did go on this, you know, this run since being cut from the UFC. He did lose, you know, 2 fights in the UFC. Did get a rematch win over Johnny Campbell. He took it to him the entire fight. I will say Chris Moutino does look better, but one thing that hasn't changed about Chris Moutino is he does not move his head. He just walks forward, tries to, you know, sort of bully people into fights. And I mean, it worked well for him in, you know, all these matchups, but he's fighting Malcolm, who has the meanest timing, the meanest counter shots. I think he's going to be able to bully him too. He's larger. I think he's going to be much more stronger as well. Malcolm's timing is incredible. And I don't know if Chris Moutino is going to be able to walk through 2 to 3 shots. It could only take 1. You know what I'm saying? Malcolm's going to sit. He's going to watch him walk forward, and he's going to crack him. And I think he just did an interview with I don't remember the name of the podcast, but he's looking to put Chris Moutino out. He said that, you know, he knows that he fought Sean O'Malley, and if he can stop Moutino clear without, you know, the ref interrupting the fight, it'll definitely, you know, put his name on an even higher map. And I think he will be able to do it. Malcolm's power is incredible for this division. And I've said, you know, repeatedly, Malcolm, Joshua Van, Andre Lima, shoot, I'll even throw in, I'm trying to think of another prospect that I really like. Well, those are the three that come to mind right now. These three guys, I'm really enjoying what they're doing. You know, they're working hard. Malcolm coming back, what, 4 weeks? Yeah, 4.5 or 5 weeks later, getting another fight. Joshua Van stepping in on short notice. I really like what these dudes are doing. And I expect a Malcolm WELLMAKER finish. I know he's sitting at like a minus 1,400 favorite, whereas, you know, the Cameron Simon fight, he was, I think he was either an underdog or like a minus 110, minus 112, or minus 120 favorite. But you could clearly see the public knows about Malcolm WELLMAKER now. And I expect a finish. I know he's going to finish him. I wonder what the knockout prop is. Over 1.5 plus money. Yeah. Chris is tough. So maybe the 1.5 could happen, but I think that's a bit of a bait. I think Malcolm's probably going to find a shot within 4 minutes. I'll say that. 4 minutes tops. Yeah, I'm going with Malcolm, the Machine WELLMAKER, to put another stamp on his UFC resume. Next up, we got Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee, the OGs, the unction, excuse me. I'm going with Michael Chiesa. I've never been a big fan of Michael Chiesa. I don't like his striking, but he is a pretty good grappler, pretty good wrestler. Interesting enough, though, Michael Chiesa is a former lightweight, and Court McGee is a former middleweight. So larger versus smaller guy. But I do think Chiesa is probably the better grappler. I do think he's less washed as well. I know Court McGee's 40. Did get this win over Tim Means, but Tim Means was pretty washed as well. Michael, slightly taller, reach is about the same, but I do think he'll probably be faster on the feet. He was able to touch up Max Griffin before he subbed him up. Tony Ferguson made him look like a complete fool. I did pick Tony in that fight too. Thought he would, you know, pull it out, but Chiesa ran right through him. Chiesa doesn't have any knockout power. He only has one. I don't think he has a knockout on his record. He either has none or one. Yeah, none. He's been knocked out before. So yeah, I don't think he'll be knocking Court McGee out. But he does set up, you know, his takedown attempts pretty well with some long straight shots. Pretty quick grappling transitions, and I do think, excuse me, I do think this fight either ends with a Michael Chiesa submission or he wins, you know, a three round battle. Court McGee side, he does have, you know, this pressure boxing background. He is a pretty strong grappler, but he lacks the explosiveness to, you know, make the transitions that a Michael Chiesa has. He's only got, you know, 3 knockouts in his career. I'm not sure, have any of them been in welterweight? I think that's something that I should have researched, you know. Doesn't look like it. When was his last? Yeah, 2009 was his last knockout? No way. Sub, decision. Damn, his last knockout was 2009. Yeah, so no, doesn't have any knockouts in the welterweight in the UFC at all. Yeah, I think Michael Chiesa probably subs him up with the you know, the quicker grappling transitions, and yeah, public's all over it. Looking at the odds, we got Michael Chiesa as a big favorite, minus 350 to plus 285 for Court McGee. I mean, I get it, but could we get some lines that's a little bit more playable? Like, geez. I mean, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I do expect Michael Chiesa to win. Like I said, sub or decision, but yeah, not really a fan of Michael Chiesa. Moving on. we got the rebooking of Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. If you guys don't know, Bellato actually had to pull out of this fight last time. It's supposed to be I think like 2 weeks ago on the Burns Morales card. Bellato had to pull out because of a herpes outbreak, so they rescheduled it to this card. The pick, if you guys don't know, last time this was part of a lock parlay. I picked Bellato and Nursultan Ruziboyev inside the distance, but Ruziboyev did not finish Dustin Stoltzfus. But the pick is still Bellato. He's a big favorite. I think he's going to knock Paul Craig out. Paul Craig, he's not really good. I mean, striking wise, he's terrible. He does have, pretty good jiu-jitsu, especially off of his back. He subbed up Jamal Hill, subbed up Magomed Ankalaev, subbed up Andre Muniz, who's a pretty good jiu-jitsu practitioner, but knocked him out actually. But looking at Andre Muniz, he's not good at all, especially at 185. He tried out 185, lost to Brandon Allen, got subbed up, lost to Kyle Bahayo, got knocked out. I think that was like late round 3, round 4 maybe. And then he lost to Bo Nickel. The striking in that fight was absolutely terrible on both sides. Paul Craig is not good. I think this is, the twilight of his career, sitting at 37 years old. I think Bellato, yes, he's been hurt before, but Paul Craig isn't going to crack him like a Ihor Potieria did, like a Jimmy Crute did. I think Bellato is going to run right through Paul Craig, and I see a violent finish coming, especially for, this fight having to be moved. I think he's got, excuse me, I'm losing my voice over here. I think he has, a point to prove. So I'm expecting Rodolfo Bellato to get a knockout. Minus 350 plus 285, similar odds to the Mike Chiesa Court McGee fight. And I think Rodolfo's going to look every bit of a minus 350 favorite. Next up, opening up the main card, we got Alonzo MEINEFIELD taking on Umar Sy. I'm picking on Umar Sy. I've never been a fan of Alonzo MEINEFIELD. I think he has really low IQ, does have a lot of power, but his striking isn't really all that good. It's really just wild blitzing hooks, really wild blitzing power shots. When I look at Umar Sy, I feel like he's like the new age of light heavyweight. He's a really slick kickboxer, got some really good grappling abilities. I think he could take an Alonzo MEINEFIELD down, especially if they were to tie up in the clinch. I could see him using some, inside trips, definitely to get Alonzo down, use that muscle up against him. I think he's got the better IQ. I think he's going to be able to negate the blitzes from Alonzo MEINEFIELD. Like I said, using the wrestling abilities. I think a submission or it's knockout is definitely live in this one. Alonzo, he had a razor thin close fight with Julius Walker, who's only 6-0, making his debut on short notice. He's got the loss to Azamat Murzakanov not too long ago. Lost to Carlos Ulberg with the stupid blitz in the first round, I believe it was. He's got the win over Dustin Jacoby. Kind of looked impressive, especially seeing where Dustin Jacoby is now. But Alonzo MEINEFIELD, he's just a powerhouse. That's really all he has going for him. His grappling isn't really that good. I don't see him being able to get up from a Umar Sy unless it's just pure strength. But Umar Sy is pretty intelligent, pretty slick with his grappling abilities. He subbed up Tuco Tokos a year ago. He's got this win over Da Woong Jong. A lot of people gave him flack because it was a decision, but Da Woong Jong actually went 3 hard with Carlos Ulberg, who's possibly fighting for a title pretty soon. So, and also, Umar Sy's got this pretty big reach advantage, pretty big height advantage. I think he's gonna finish Alonzo MEINEFIELD, not because I don't like him, but because the skill set is there. Looking at the odds, we got Umar Sy sitting at minus 550 plus 400 for Alonzo MEINEFIELD. I think that's about right. I know Alonzo was a slight favorite in that Julius Walker fight, and I picked Julius Walker, but I don't think a time like Alonzo MEINEFIELD's getting away in this fight. Umar Sy from Paris, France. I believe he trains with Saragon as well. I think he's going to get it done inside the distance for sure. Next up, we got Cody Brundage versus Mansour Abdul Malik. Back-to-back prospects fights. I'm going with Mansour Abdul Malik, but I will say these odds are pretty wide, seeing that Mansour actually got cracked in his last fight against Nick Klein. He got cracked in a fight Forget the name of the opponent, but not too long ago as well. He has shown an ability to, get hurt, but he does have, the wits about himself to get through the adversity. Was able to, finish Nick Klein in that after that exchange. He got hit with like a big spinning back elbow, survived the round, came back, finished him. He said, I watched an interview from him recently. He was saying that he got too caught up trying to hunt and stalk and walk down his opponent and not realizing what he can bring back to him. So I do expect him to correct that mistake when he's fighting a Cody Brundage, who does have some power. He's coming off that knockout over Julian Marquez. Did get hurt in that fight as well. Was almost out of it pretty early. Almost got subbed up too. No contest over Abdulrazak Alhassan. Was getting hit to the back of the head. Cody Brundage will try to find a way out of any fight. He's got the Bo Nickal submission, but he was able to negate a lot of Bo Nickal's takedown attempts. Slammed Zach Reese, who was also trying to take him down. Cody Brundage could crack for sure. It's just a matter of will Mansour be there for him to crack. I think he does have a puncher's chance. He has been able to, he's on this bit of a resurgence of his career. It was almost out the door, especially after this Bo Nickal fight. But I don't think he's going to end up fraud checking a Mansour Abdulmalik. I think Mansour gets it done. Probably ground and pound. That has been his method of victory in the past. Dropped Nick Klein, finished him with some ground and pound. Dusko Todorovic finished him with some ground and pound. And also on the Contender Series, ground and pound, ground and pound, ground and pound, KO. That's what I see happening here. Now he is a 8-1 favorite. If we could get the odds, 7-1, minus 700 plus 500 for Cody Brundage. I'm not upset at people, taking a stab at Cody Brundage. I wonder what the knockout prop is going to be, which we will take a look at on Wednesday's show. But I'm going with Mansour Abdulmalik. I think he finishes Cody Brundage. Moving on, we got another Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt. I think the new version of Cody with the, the face tattoos, the new hair, I think he's going to be able to beat Raoni Barcelos. I know Barcelos is coming off of this Peyton Talbot win. It was a bit of a fraud checking. Well, it was a fraud checking, but the difference between Peyton Talbot and Cody is Cody can defend takedowns, which is what led to Raoni Barcelos, mauling a win. I feel as though Cody has the faster hands. He still has some KO power. Although, Barcelos has only been knocked out once in his career. I'm not saying Cody knocks him out clear, but I do think, the punching speed, the footwork, the ability to defend the takedowns will be able to get him a win here. He is a slight underdog. And I get it. I mean, he's coming off the loss to Davison Figueiredo where he was bullied, in the second round, was able to get taken down and ultimately submitted. But Davison Figueiredo, although he was a flyweight, he was a much larger, or at least much stronger bantamweight in that matchup. I don't think Barcelos will have that, strength advantage over Cody. I think Cody's speed should be able to get him, the win here. Former champion, he hasn't really looked much of himself. He is still pretty young though, 33 or almost 34. We got Barcelos who's 38, who has been, putting up a pretty good account of himself. But I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt. I don't think, he's written off completely just because he had a loss to Davison Figueiredo. Early in that fight, he was, exchanging some pretty good combinations with him early. He's got the win over Brian Kelleher, who I probably rate a little not too far behind, Barcelos. The win over Trevin Jones. Trevin Jones got cut, I think, right after that. Kai Kara-France knocked him out, but Kai Kara-France has a lot of punching power, more than Raoni Barcelos. There is, a path for Raoni to catch Cody, showboating or even just catching his chin. I don't think his chin is that bad. If we look at, all the knockouts, TJ Dillashaw, Prime, he was a little bit of juiced up too. Who else? K Kara-France, Pedro Munoz. Okay. TJ, Pedro Munoz, Kai Kara-France. I mean, I'm not going to write him off. I think Cody could, at least win the 20th. I think he could compete with the top 20 to 30 bantamweights in the world. So I'm gonna go with Cody Garbrandt to get a win here. It just matters what version of Cody Garbrandt we get. That's really what it boils down to. But I think we do get a decent version of Cody Garbrandt. I think his chin holds up, and I think he can outstrike Ronnie Barcelos for 3 rounds, or maybe even score his own highlight knockout. But I'm going with Cody Garbrandt to win. Let's check the odds real quick before we move on. Cody, there's too many Codys on this fight. All right, here. Plus 150, minus 175. Opened at what? Plus 105, so almost a coin flip. I think Cody could get it done. Then we got the featured fight of the night, Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. I'm going Edmen Shahbazyan to find a knockout. He's a much better striker. If you look at the matchups for Andre Petroski, it's been grappler, Rodolfo Vieira, Dylan Buckey has a wrestling background, but is I'll say a wrestler first and striker second. Dylan Buckey actually got knocked out by Edmen Shahbazyan a few months ago, whereas Andre went, 3 rounds with him. Josh Friend, pretty trash, I gotta say. Then he's losing to Jacob Malkoun after, running into his hip, getting knocked out by Michel Pieta. So really the last striker that he actually fought was Michel Pieta a year and 7 months ago and got knocked out. He is 8-2 in the UFC, I believe. On a bit of a run right now. Yeah, 8-2, 3-fight win streak, running into Edmen Shahbazyan, who's been trading wins and losses. But if we really look at him, Lungibola I think he's pretty garbage. Anthony Hernandez is a monster, got knocked out by him. That's forgivable. Anthony Hernandez is fighting DELIDZE pretty soon. Anthony Hernandez is a top 10 middleweight in the world, so it's pretty forgivable in my eyes. He's got the win over AJ Dobson, who's a quicker striker, better on the feet than Andre Petroski. Did get touched up in that fight, but ultimately find a knockout. Lost Gerald Meerschaert, but he did have Meerschaert hurt bad early in that fight. Got a little overzealous and got subbed up. I don't see Petroski being able to come back from a big shot like a GM3. GM3 is pretty tough. I think he's a little bit more tougher than Andre Petroski too. And then of course, the knockout over Dylan Buckey. Slight height and reach advantage for Edmen Shahbazyan. I think he should be able to style on him in this fight. Andre Petroski doesn't really cut the octagon off well, just walks forward and tries to, get the wrestling going. I think Edmen Shahbazyan's footwork, his hand speed, his kicking abilities should be able to get a knockout here. So I'm going Edmen Shahbazyan by knockout. 12 out of 14 of his wins have been by knockout. I think he gets another one here. Shahbazyan, the odds have dropped. Open at a minus 240, he's at a minus 185 now. Petroski plus 160, was plus 205. So there's getting some love on the Petroski side. So let's keep it rolling because could definitely money line Edmen Shahbazyan here. And for the co-main event, we got Thug Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick, former strawweight, big underdog. I'm going with Miranda Maverick. I think in this matchup, it's really optimized on what Rose we get. The last Rose Namajunas we got, she was getting wrestled up by Erin Blanchfield, who's a bit larger than Miranda Maverick, but the takedown defense wasn't there. She was getting outstruck. And I think Miranda Maverick has a little bit more dog in her than Rose Namajunas. Her last 2 wins, Tracy Cortez, short notice, primarily, a striking fight. She's got the win over Amanda Ribas, salute to it. But she also got touched up by MEINEFIELD. I know she broke her pinky or broke her index finger in that fight, but she looked okay, I guess, for a majority of the fight. Fiora was really just running laps around her. And then she got the, the split decision, worst title fight in history, lost to Carla Esparza. I think she only landed like 2 takedowns in that fight, and they probably threw a total of like 30 strikes. That was a terrible fight. But I think Miranda Maverick does bring some solid wrestling to her. Her striking is okay. I know she's at a bit of a height disadvantage, and I think Miranda Maverick could outmuscle a Rose Namajunas. She's never been the strongest strawweight or flyweight. I know she has some slick kickboxing, but I think Maverick's footwork, she should be able to, I think she's elusive enough to avoid some of the NAMAJUNAS head kicks. She famously knocked out Zhang Wei Li with one of them. I don't see her getting a knockout here. I think we're gonna get a young, hungry contender, I guess, or prospect, 27 years old. I think she could beat NAMAJUNAS. She's a big underdog in this spot. Looking at her, I think she's got pretty good top control. She's got a stronger base. This win over Dione Barbosa, I rate pretty highly because Barbosa is a pretty slick, Muay Thai practitioner. Also has some really good jiu-jitsu. She teaches jiu-jitsu out in Las Vegas. I believe she's the instructor of the school. Andrea Lee win is pretty solid. Cachoeira's submission is pretty solid, and then she lost to Jasdavicius, who's probably, 1 or 2 fights removed from a title shot, so that's pretty forgivable. Last one was Jamie Lynn Horth, who's on this card as well, much larger than a Rose NAMAJUNAS. So Jamie Lynn was able to touch her up a little bit, but like I said, I think Miranda, when I look at Miranda, she reminds me of what is her name? What's her name? Sam. I gotta go to the flyweight division. Sam Hughes. I don't need to. Yeah, Sam Hughes. That's what she reminds me a little bit of. Brings the pressure, brings the dog energy, and I think she could win this fight. Let's look at the odds. NAMAJUNAS minus 245, big favorite here. Plus 210 for Miranda Maverick. I don't know. I like the underdog in this fight. I think she could pull it out, and I'm going to go with the Maverick. And to the main event of the evening. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman versus Joaquin Numansa Buckley. I gotta go with Buckley. Surging contender, been, knocking out Kobe Covington, knocking out Stephen Thompson, win over Ruzaboyev, who's a freak at it was at 170. Vicente Luque knockout. Alex Morano win. Compared to Usman coming off of 3 losses, one of them being a head kick knockout, lost the decision to Leon, and then losing to Hamzat. Did look, made a strong account of himself late, but that was up at 185, and it's almost 2 years ago. Usman's got really bad knees. His striking, I would say, it's part of the older generation, whereas Joaquin Buckley, he's super explosive. The ability to close the gap with some heavy hands, with the heavy wild hooks. I think he'll be able to, Kamaru Usman is one of my favorite fighters, but I think Buckley might be able to knock him out. And it'll be the rite of passage, basically what, Kamaru, Kobe, Gilbert, and Leon have become for these new welterweights. I think it's time again that we see Usman get knocked out, sadly. I do think Usman will hold a, solid 2 rounds. But I think that 3rd round, we're going to see some Numansa power. Usman, he presents a really good wrestling ability, but I don't see him being able to outmuscle a Buckley. Buckley's pretty large for 170. He used to fight at middleweight. Was able to hang with some of them, but, cut to 170, and he's shown that his gas tank is solid. The power carries. He's been able to, pretty much muscle a lot of these opponents. Ruzaboyev win was super impressive. Ruzaboyev's like a 6'5" welterweight. Very impressive win there. And that, that really put him on the map for these 2 big wins. The Stephen Thompson knockout was impressive. Kobe Covington stoppage was impressive. I think we're going to see another Buckley knockout. Slight height advantage for Kamaru, but he's too stiff in the striking. He's too stiff with his mobility. The knees being shot. I don't see him being able to avoid a big shot from Joaquin. I think Buckley's gonna close the gap, and I think Usman is gonna be looking up at the lights. It's time for some new blood, man, and everybody has their day. Gilbert Burns had his. Leon had his. Kobe had his. And it's time for Usman. I think we're going to get possibly maybe not the next title shot, but definitely 2 or 3 fights from now, Joaquin Buckley will be fighting for a welterweight title after he knocks out Kamaru Usman this Saturday, UFC Atlanta. Let's take a look at the odds. Big favorite for Joaquin, minus 265, plus 225 for Usman. I think that's about right. I think Joaquin, you can't deny him anymore. The power's there. The speed is there. Usman's got some really good straight shots, but like I said, it's like the older generation of striking. I think Buckley is just too powerful. He's going to be able to close that gap a lot faster than Usman. I think he's going to attack the legs. Might throw some nasty, you know what John Jones does? The oblique kicks. I think he's going to throw some of those in there. Really attack those knees to Usman. And I think Usman's going to sleep. Even if he doesn't, Joaquin Buckley could win a five round fight as well. So I'm going with Numansa to dethrone the former welterweight GOAT. Or, well, he is one of the welterweight GOATs, but I think Buckley gets it done. All right, guys, that's what I got for UFC Atlanta. Let me know what you guys thought about the picks, the predictions. If you guys like one of the underdogs that I picked, if you think I'm tripping, let me know in the comments. Looking forward to hearing from you all. I'll see you for Makai's Money Making Plays this coming Wednesday. Like I said, I will be at UFC Atlanta, so I will be taking some videos. Hopefully we get some really good knockouts, some really good finishes, so I can share with you all my, live reactions and all that. But thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys soon.